Hey everybody, it's your girl Charlene with Soul Sisters Talk. And today we have our first podcast series called The Journey of Marriage, the Ups and Downs. We can make it through them together. This podcast will feature 5 married couples discussing their relationships, how they've gone through the ups and downs, and how they've weathered the storms. Listen, we're going to talk about finances, children, romance. I mean, you name it, we're talking about it because we want to be real. We hope that this podcast will help another couple who's on their journey and they may be feeling like they don't know if they can make it. Our couples have been married for 20 plus years, most of them. And so we just hope that you enjoy it. And then join us for the end of the podcast because we're going to do a couples game night and it is bound to be crazy. So thank you guys and I love you. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Soul Sisters Talk. It's your girl Charlene, and as always, I'm super excited about another show that doesn't change, and today is just the same. Today, our podcast is on my series called Marriages. The series is The Journey of Marriage, the ups and the downs, and can we make it through them together? One of our commitments on Soul Sisters Talk is to feature ordinary women and men who are doing extraordinary things in their lives daily. People who are impacting the world little by little, change by change. So this series is designed to create an open dialogue about marriages and its ups and downs. We must know that marriages is honorable in the sight of God. But we also know that trying to mix and mesh two personalities, two willpowers, and two hearts together certainly comes with some challenges.
That's right.
So we want to explore how our couples on this podcast made it through those challenges. I want to thank you in advance to my guests for being transparent, for being honest, and for being vulnerable today. And for giving us a highlight into your life, into the real stuff that you guys go through. Talking about something so intimate and sacred as marriage can be hard, but opening up and sharing with others can be liberating and restorative. It will also help people on their way through this journey called marriage. And so without a further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, but I must first introduce this guest with me.
All right. All right.
And he's joining me for the second time on the show. Thank you, honey.
Love you guys.
Love you. We will be celebrating our 20th year anniversary in just a few weeks. And so I'm super excited.
All right.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
That's it.
And I also have my lovely friends and our guest today, the Spivey family.
Hi.
Henri and Rhonda. Hey, guys.
Hey.
They have been married for 23 years, and they reside in Durham, North Carolina, the Bull City. Woo, woo. They are proud parents to two beautiful daughters, Destiny and Ashley. And they soon will be empty nesters just like us. I want to say welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you all for having us. Really appreciate it.
So what did you think when I called and said, hey, I want y'all on my podcast?
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
He was like, let's do it. But of course, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already nervous.
Yeah.
Time I saw the email, I got nervous. I'm like, oh. But you know,
Don't be
because
nervous. We've been friends for a long time. We don't bite.
I know.
That's
I know.
it. That's it.
Yeah. But we couldn't say no. So
No.
We appreciate you guys and thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I do on my show is I love to read quotes. And so today won't be any different. So we'll start the show off with a quote. And let me pick which one I'm going to read today.
All right.
I think I'm going to do this one. Great marriages are partnerships. It can't be a great marriage without being a partner first. And that was by Helen Mirren. What do y'all think about that?
I totally agree. So great marriages are like partnerships. Is that what it said?
Mhm.
A great marriage without having a great partner?
Yes.
Right. So it says
Okay.
great marriages are partnerships. It can't be a great marriage without having a great partnership.
That is true. Most people think of partnerships, business in business, but and most people think of marriages as a business transaction, even though it is not. It's a vow. It's not a contract. It's a lifelong vow. But the partnership aspect, you have to start out as friends. I think before that's one way to ensure that your marriage becomes great, and your friendship will be there regardless. That's how I feel. I say, that's what ends up in a great marriage, is a great partnership, but mostly a great friendship.
So one of the things that I like about what you said, the partnership, when you think about a partnership, we've got a common goal. We've got our eyes on a focus. And there are going to be things that may take us away from it, but refocusing on the core and putting our eyes on the focus gets us moving through. And I mean, holy cow, marriage is it's relational, it's all kinds of misunderstandings and different things of that nature, but refocusing on the goal. And it's the Lord. It's the Lord.
Amen.
It's about
I'm glad you said that. I actually agree with both of you guys. I certainly think that I like the analogy that Henri used. I think that marriage is a partnership. We both go into this relationship with a goal, with an intention, with a purpose. And so any business that you start, you want it to be successful. Nobody goes into business for failure, right? And so
right.
you go into that business, your goal is success. And so that means you work really hard to make that happen. And marriage is definitely an effort. It's not just something that happens. You have to work at it daily.
Yeah.
Me personally, I like to take the business analogy of the partnership because of my entrepreneurship. The partnership to me is the mission that two parties are in agreement with. Because we are in agreement, to execute the goal requires balance and desire and commitment from two parties. Because the goal is success.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So in business, the goal is always success. And relationally in this partnership, the goal is love. The goal is finishing the course, completion, wholeness. The partnership to me is making sure that everyone is equally responsible and every party know their roles and position.
That's where I was going.
Know your role. And when you
we're two different people.
How is that done?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that's where I was thinking and going. So how do we achieve that balance in a marriage where it's knowing your roles? Because in a partnership, one person may be the salesperson, one person may be the tech person. And sales doesn't try to do tech doesn't try to do sales. So how do you keep balanced the role?
Well, I think that's a really good question. And one of the things that I think that you do is you allow, I have another quote, but you allow people to evolve. When we get into business as a partner,
I like that.
You come in and you say, I'm the one who's going to do the sales, right? You're the one who's going to do the work. So I own a business. I may say, I'm going to do all the marketing. You guys just got to accomplish the job. But over time, things evolve, right?
Yeah.
So being able to be flexible enough with each other to allow our skill sets to grow, us to change, us to even, I may have come in really loving to do sales, but guess what? Now I'm a little burnt out on doing sales. I want to do something else. When you're in a good business, you say, okay, evolution is inevitable. So we
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Now we learn, how do we change? Okay, you don't want to do sales anymore. I'm not really that good at sales. Let's figure out how to bring this partnership together so we can still accomplish the goal. And I
Go.
think that's how you do it in marriages. I think that I think we're jumping way too far ahead, but who we
Right.
are when we first met, 1999, 2000, not who we are
Right.
in 2020. And we've
Right.
had to realize that we've evolved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good.
I like that. I like that.
Also, I'm glad it was good. Okay.
All right.
I already got a half a page of notes already.
So let's just jump into this interview. Tell me, guys, how did you guys meet?
Henri?
Me?
Y'all both may have different
We
stories, though.
definitely do.
Yeah, different versions of it.
Yeah.
So we okay. So you know, back in the day, we have friends that are talking to. Rhonda and I grew on two different sides of town. She grew up in the Hosky. I lived in Bertie County. So my friend was talking to Rhonda, and we just chit chat buddies and everything. So he was getting ready to do something. He said, "Hey, do me a favor, talk to this girl while I go do this for my mom." So I'm chit chatting and everything, and I was actually asking Rhonda about another girl, and we started talking a little bit, and I met her at a party. That was the first time the first time I saw her. And then, I mean, that was
It was on in, huh?
yeah, that was kind of it. I didn't say anything else about that friend.
Okay, Rhonda, what's your version of the story? How y'all met?
That is correct. And this
Okay.
was back in 1988-ish, 87, 88,
No.
when we first met.
5, 6,
85, 86.
5,
Okay.
5, 6.
When we first met. That is correct. That is mostly correct. And then the next day, my cousin actually was one of his friends. We didn't really even know that. But the next day, he shows up at my house. And I'm like, how did you find where I live? and then he said, well, I followed your scent. And I'm like, was that
You didn't have a line, did you?
I forgot
That's
that
what
part.
King do.
Player, player.
I forgot that part.
I hope I was smelling good. But anyway. So, and then our families actually knew each other and
Yeah.
everything, even though we didn't know each other at that time.
Yeah.
So, it just evolved. And then in 1990, we started dating, or going together. That's what we used to call it back then, boyfriend. And that's the beginning.
All right.
There you
That's
go.
the beginning.
But y'all like 30 plus years together.
Oh,
yeah.
man,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
telling you. So Rhonda invited me to her debutante ball.
Whoa.
Yeah.
She was very shy.
Very,
Very, very
Oh.
shy. So I remember going and everything, and I got there, and she didn't really talk to me. We just kind of go do the
I
little
was
dance and
so
everything.
nervous.
And I got home. My mom said, "How was it?" I said, "That's the last time you'll see her."
Debutante ball was like in 1988, something
Yeah,
like that, because
yeah,
I was a
yeah.
junior in high school, something
Yeah.
like that.
But man, we just started talking and had a lot of common things and laughing. I mean, we were kids.
Yeah.
Kids.
Aw,
Yeah.
sweet. That's
And we
sweet.
fell in love. I mean, it was just, I don't know, we were just friends that fell in love.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you guys if it was love at first sight, but it looked like it was some stuff at first sight.
Yeah.
Don't really
Yeah.
love at first sight. Mm-mm.
No.
Okay.
He was just a
Well,
really
I can't say that about him. I think, yeah, our experience was different. So, anyway, so I have he was in love with me as soon as he seen it. He just, sorry, Rhonda. But I do think it could be also age, right? When you meet somebody where you are at what stage in life, it could make
I
it.
agree.
So I have a question, and this is for you, Mr. Spivey.
Uh-oh.
For the man.
Well, I feel like this seat's warming up.
Do men grow up thinking about marriage And if so, what type of things are you guys taught about marriage? I know girls do. As women, you know, we're either we are raised to nurture,
Right.
whether it's children or a husband. My generation, you know, you were raised, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be somebody's wife, you're gonna take care of your family, and that's what you know, that's what we thought to do. How about that
Right.
for men?
No, not
No.
on the radar.
Okay.
Not on the radar. There, and quite candidly, there are two types of women. Is that girl, and then there's the what I call the Sunday afternoon girl. The Sunday afternoon girl is who you pick up and walks in the park. Let's go get ice cream, you know.
That's right.
And the other girl, you know, and the other girl is not saying that they are horrible or anything like that. It's just she's just not that material. I may not be. I may be the Friday, Saturday guy and not the Sunday guy. You know, but I mean, that's just somewhat of the classification at that time. And what I found with Rhonda was genuineness, someone to talk about a lot of things rather than a small, minute subject line. And I guess as we matured, and definitely after we had Destiny, you know, this is solid. This is a family structure, you know, and we thought about marriage.
For you, Reggie, was marriage something that you were taught or they talked about to the men in the family growing up?
Well, my perception was totally different because I guess in my family with the men, we operated a whole lot of dysfunctional behavior. And I actually didn't see marriage on a right aspect of a proper level until I became saved and got into the church. That's when I witnessed love. I witnessed love from a man's perspective. This is your wife, but you can have 2 or 3 girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way possible you can take care of the family because you're gonna be absent. So I experienced the absenteeism of my dad because he lived in that dysfunction. The marriage didn't come on my radar until I got saved, until I met Christ, and I seen brothers who genuinely love their wives.
Right.
I didn't see that out of my family,
right,
out of my home. I saw that later on, and when they matured as men, but not when they were young men raising us. It was,
Right.
So I didn't see that. So my perspective is totally different. So that's why I made a purpose in my life raising my boys, how to love a woman, be faithful to one, you know, and that was their mama.
So it's interesting in perspective because back then, you know, they had a different set of rules.
Yes.
And praise the Lord, we were allowed to see that contrast.
Yes.
So we didn't want. Yeah, I mean, the man, you know, he stayed gone and had a girlfriend and snickering and things of that nature. But that just allowed us to go ahead and just say, hey, this is what I don't want.
Yes. Because I witnessed the hurts on my aunts and my uncles.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
On my mom.
Yeah.
I witnessed that lifestyle where we work all week, leave on Friday, come back on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, where you been?
Where you been?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you missed my football game. You didn't take me to the barbershop. So like I said, you know, I had a very dysfunctional, but it was functional in that lifestyle because that's how they were living, because the role of what was expected, what a man could do and what a woman could do, a woman was basically taught, I'm gonna stay home and keep this household together despite what he do. Man was taught, man, you bring home that money on Friday, what leave you left, that's what you take out the house. And you
so that's what is important, because when we start talking about roles, when we were talking initially, and then what Charlene brought up was evolving.
Yes.
That was the role, man, provide, women take care of the house. And at some point that spun out of control and we didn't evolve.
Yes.
And I agree. And I think that when we speak of roles, I think that people do think of it gender-based roles.
Mhm.
strictly on, like Reggie said, you bring home the bacon, I'll fry it up in the pan.
Mhm.
Well, when I think about roles, I think about each household and each family being unique from someone else's.
Mhm.
And what we need in our household to operate may look different than someone else needs in their household to operate. But that is the
Right.
roles that we play. I remember there was a season, which is going to be kind of a off topic, but on topic. We used to have some male friends who were stay-at-home dads. I don't know if you guys remember when that came, when people were doing
Right.
it.
Right.
My husband was like, "Ain't no man supposed to be at home." You know, and it was, well, at the moment, what was probably happening in that family is her income was greater
Right.
than his income, but daycare was too expensive, right? And so we picked the lesser of two. Maybe her trajectory was higher on the professional scale than his was. So in that family, they had to, and it wasn't adjusting the roles gender-based. He's still the husband.
Right.
Right. Right.
She still can honor and respect him as the husband.
And to see
She
Right.
just happened to make more money, and he stayed home and took care of the kids. I think that society has perpetuated an illusion of what we should all be doing, and that may not work in every situation. I do think that Reggie should change my light bulbs and take the trash out. And I don't have a problem with doing the laundry and cooking dinner. However, there may be times that I got to change the light bulbs and take the trash out, and he got to cook dinner and do the laundry. It's the balance that works in our family. And
That's
if you
right.
get so dogmatic on one thing,
Right.
then I believe that there opens a door for problems.
That's true.
Well, I think that goes back to the comment of revolving and growing as a family. You know, I can recall my wife didn't like doing laundry, but she didn't mind folding laundry.
Well, let's put some clarity on that. See,
For our household to keep peace, I just done the laundry and she folded the laundry. Because sometimes she just didn't
It
feel
all
like
got
doing it.
done. It all got
I'm kind
done.
of anal.
for
So-
sake, for sake of time.
Don't worry about it. We in it now. We in it
So
now.
you know, being honest and transparent. Yeah, I was not a. I think I had some bitterness watching my mom grow up with what we were talking about earlier.
Wow.
Being the domestic wife and my dad taking abuse of that.
Wow.
And most of you know, this is my second marriage. And in my first marriage, I was just like my mom. And my ex-husband just did not treat me well. And I'm thinking, I'm scrubbing floors on my knees. You know, I'm doing all this stuff that I thought I should be doing, and you treat me bad. So I think when I came over, and by the time I read, I was a business owner. I had my own business. I had all my own. I was working 12, 13, 14 hours a day. I had plenty of undergarments. You ran out of undergarments. You need to wash them. You know, I wasn't thinking that way. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking literally from a broken place.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not about to be sitting around doing laundry all day. Nope, I ain't gonna do it. And I had to realize and to repair my heart from that. And then he had to also realize what my mother-in-law does, that doesn't mean that that's going to work in our home. My mother-in-law, she a Monday, Wednesday, Friday laundry person. Tuesday, Thursday, she mopping the floor with bleach. You know, that just wasn't our picture. So it was both of us having to grow and figure out how this is going to work in our family. Because it wasn't like I just didn't want to be doing laundry all day after being in the salon 13 hours or 10 hours. Just what?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Charlene, which was very good. You said that you were operating from a broken place. And a lot of people do get into marriages operating for years from that broken place. And I mean, we all have experienced brokenness in some forms, you know, growing up, you know, seeing our mom do things that we like, I ain't gonna never do that, you know, whatever. When I get married, but then of course we end up doing it because it's, you know, what we know. It's like second nature. But nevertheless, that was very poignant when you said you were operating from a broken place. You have to realize that in order to overcome that, which you did. Thank God, you know, I'm sure that took some growth and some prayer and some exercise, everything.
Well, and I think it's all of us. I mean, he said he had to grow from the brokenness that he saw. You
Right.
had to grow from whatever it was that you. I think that's what we're talking about, the evolution and the evolving in marriages.
Right.
If it's stuck in one thing, it's never going to work.
Amen.
So, you wanted to say something, Irene?
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, because rearing two young ladies, I have to train them or rear them in a fashion where they're dual purposed, where they can take care of themselves financially, emotionally, you know, I mean, where they can be sufficient, I would say. But they have to soften to make way for a man to lead.
Right.
And it's difficult to do. As I talk to cousins and that are single, and my sister that is single, you know, that's difficult to do when you have done on your own for so long, but now you have to be led. Yeah.
I agree with you. And, you know, I think that when we start talking about children and parenting, I think that is one of the challenges. And again, I think that is, even with our kids, that's a growth in how we're teaching them and what we teach them, because what we show them possibly when they're little, life has changed by the time they get 15. And so now you have to, but I definitely think that it is hard today with raising children. And that's a whole nother podcast that we could do, because of the expectation and the bar that has been lowered for how, you know, as a woman could say the responsibility of a man, and then a man could say the arrogance of a woman. You know, the bar has definitely changed. So
yeah, that is
that is a good podcast. Y'all gonna be on it when I do it. Let me ask you, what is the hardest thing that you guys have faced, or the challenge that you guys have faced in your marriage that you could say over the 26 years you've been together? How many? 23 years?
Well, 23 years married. The hardest challenge
what's some of the hardest challenges you guys think you've faced?
Too gracious.
You both can pick individual ones.
Well, for me, there was a period when my brother passed unexpectedly in 2008. There have been many challenges, but I'm just picking one or two. So that was a great challenge in my life as well as in our marriage, because that was the first time I had ever experienced depression. And it was, you know, diagnosed as situational depression. You know, they, you know, psychologists and all have these different categories of depression, right? So that was the first time I had ever experienced depression, and it was severe, not to the point of suicide, but it was severe. And I was also at that age of going through hormonal changes, you know. So all of that compacted that was a time. Moody one day, Omri doesn't know how to deal with me. I'm giving him literature to read, and he's, you know, I don't know, we're praying, and I mean, it was all over the place. And having these two young children, it was a lot.
And we were moving to this house.
And we're moving into this house at the same time. In
my mindset, I'm saying, well, thank the Lord, you know, got a house and we're building it and picking this out. And then her brother died.
Yeah, and it was like life just stopped for me.
And the blessing that we were walking into is really not.
and then when we
this was an unhappy house. I mean, walking in the door, you know,
and
just
trying to be happy, but not really happy.
Yeah, Yeah.
Was
And,
that the same for you, Henri? Was that your most memorable challenge, or one of the challenges that you can say in the marriage that was difficult for you, or is yours something different?
Most memorable was when we first got married. Rhonda and I were early parents, had destiny out of wedlock, and then I moved up here. We were in Eastern North Carolina, no opportunities down there, and we're broken up. Yeah, we're broken up, and I just refused to be down there and not be able to provide for myself and my child. So I moved here, and I stayed here for about in the Triangle area for about 2 or 3 years. And Ron and I were talking periodically. We still talk and everything, but then we started talking a little bit more, and the conversation changed. And we finally decided to get married, and Rhonda and Des moved here in the Triangle.
Praise God.
And it was an ordeal because Rhonda was asking, well, did you take this girl here?
Yeah, I had a lot of insecurities.
A lot of insecurities.
I was what, 20, 23-ish?
Yeah,
a lot of insecurities. Like
working through those insecurities, no, I didn't, and being honest. No, I didn't. You're my Sunday girl. So I can't, I wouldn't go here with I want to do this with you, So I mean, working through those were, challenging.
So being young parents, being married at a young age, and then having, life experiences happen, deaths and all, those were challenging times for us. Some of the challenge.
What about for you? Do you remember a challenging time in our marriage that you can remember?
I think for me, when we first got married, one of the challenging things was, and my wife got pregnant from me, is feeling helpless.
What now?
When my wife got pregnant, I never felt helpless in all my life. And I was internally battling that, but she was pregnant.
Right.
But that was a challenge for me because she was hurting, she was sick. I couldn't work. I was kind of depressed because I couldn't work.
Right.
Because I couldn't, the doctor would just say she's pregnant, then I'm like, man, it's got to be more than just she's pregnant. It was a real emotional time because we was newlyweds.
Right.
It put a strain immediately on our marriage.
Right.
So I think that was my most vulnerable emotional state in our marriage. And God, I had some brothers around me was like, hey man, don't get alone. Don't isolate. Don't pull iron sharp nine.
That's right. That's right.
Talk with me. So I endured some stuff in Christ that if I weren't in Christ, we wouldn't have made it.
Right, that's right.
So that was, I had somebody to lean on, had someone to fellowship with, had someone to talk to that encouraged me. And then we was always led back to the scripture. So that was probably the most emotional ordeal that I experienced because I was so excited about being a father and not failing.
Right.
Because I witnessed so much failure in marriages where the dads I've seen this too, and the moms walk away and the child is left suffering.
That's a lot of pressure.
So that was a lot of pressure on me.
A lot of pressure.
And then I'm walking from entrepreneurship into corporate America, and I'm like trying to navigate through that storm. It was a lot going on in our marriage when we first got married.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't know that I ever knew that, honey. And of course, mine is going to be a little bit different. I think one of my biggest challenges when we got married was me, and I kind of talked about this, going through my transition of accepting being a wife and a mother again. And not accepting in the sense that I didn't want to be married, but understanding how we were going to make our family look. Because I think I said I was a business owner, And I had stylists in my salon. I had estheticians. I had a nail tech. I was running a thriving business, but I also had a new husband and a child. And 10 months later, he got me knocked up again. And so,
His fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I wasn't
Oh,
there.
right.
Well, it was your fault, Henri. You were Kevin Styles.
Oh, don't tell the whole story. Don't tell it. And so I remember this challenge of us going through. I was very active in my church. I was trying to run the salon. I was trying to be a wife. I was trying to be a mother. And Reggie and I had this really big fight. I mean, it was like one of those like doors slamming, screaming fights, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I remember going into our garage at that time, which we actually had a garage, a real like garage. Now it's converted, but there was a couch out there, and I sat on the couch, and I remember just crying and praying out to God, and asking Him, "What is it that you want me to do, Lord? You know, I'm trying, and I'm trying all that I know how to do. I'm trying to be a good wife. I'm trying to be a mother. I'm trying to be a businesswoman. I'm trying to be the missionary evangelist at my church. I'm trying to do all this. I'm feeling overwhelmed." And I just remember, just like I'm talking to you guys right now, the Lord saying to me, "Hear your husband's heart."
All right.
His heart was, "I want you to be home with us. I need you." My heart was, "Yeah, but you knew I was a businesswoman. You knew I was an evangelist. You knew I was this. You knew I was that." He was like, "But I need you."
Wow.
And that kind of leads into conflict resolution that I was going to ask about. So for me, my biggest challenge was the hurdle of me and learning how to hear my husband, even when we speak different languages. Even when we speak different languages, it would probably have been received differently by me had he spoken how I understand. But because he spoke his language, I had to spend time away from him in that moment in the garage. And if I would have stayed in myself, I would have never heard God either. I truly was like, "Lord, what is it that you want?" And at that moment, he said simply this: "Hear your husband's heart."
That's such a mouthful. That's such a mouthful. From the male perspective, can you imagine seeing what we saw as kids and trying to figure out how we're going to make the difference? Putting that kind of pressure on ourselves to be the man of the house and go out and accomplish and everything that we didn't see as a man. And now here's my own family. Praise the Lord that you were instructed to hear your husband's heart. Because if you hear my heart, you know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. If you hear my heart, you know where my focus is. Evolving, yeah, I need to change some of that because it can't always be about you hearing my heart. I've got to listen to you. I've got to do some of the action. But I think that's the start. If you can hear a man's heart, for my daughters, if you can hear your daddy's voice, if you can hear your daddy's heart, you can. Same thing with the Lord. Hear him, you know.
I mean, I think that even though that was because God was talking to me, I think
Good question. You might have to cut this off, Charlene.
No, we got plenty of time. I think that it's so powerful. That was one of my conflict resolutions. And I told Reggie, so one time, I'm going to ask you guys, so be thinking about something that you've learned and how you guys have dealt with conflict resolutions on this journey. But one of mine was to tell Reggie I would much rather live in peace with him than to be right. And I told him that one day, I don't want to argue just to prove my point to be right. I'd much rather live in peace with you than to be right. And that was that defining moment in the garage. That moment was God saying, if you guys would just hear each other's heart and desire to live in peace with each other, then like you said, Henri, you'll know that I'm not trying to do you harm, even when it doesn't come out right. And that doesn't go just for me hearing Reggie's heart. That means Reggie has to hear
That's
my
right.
heart. He
That's right.
has
That's right.
to
That's right.
override his natural emotion and say, what is my wife really trying to say to me? Is she really telling me that she don't want me to go to work and make a living? Or is she saying to me, she needs a little more of my time? What is she really saying? And I think that is the power of us being able to learn to override our natural emotion and listen to the person that we say we love.
That's good.
Piggyback on that, I think what actually happened, God allowed, love covers the multitude of sin, but God allowed us to walk in humility and taught me how to acquiesce so we can have peace. And then we'll come back if there's some unresolved issue so we can speak to candidly, but open and free
Right.
without
Right.
any envy, strife, or anger.
Right.
And
Right.
it's hard because now I got to come out of Reggie
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well.
to come into walking with Reginald. You see what I'm saying? Allow
Right.
Christ to lead me, you know what I mean? Because in the flesh, I'm always wanting to be right. Because, you know, in our flesh, there's no good thing that's going to dwell, you know, and you don't want to see your wrong or hear no one else's perspective. You see what I'm saying? So I had to really grow, and it's still evolving in that area. You know what I mean? Because it's becoming, and it's everlasting. You know, this journey in marriage is a lifelong learning experience, and we're
Right.
learning
Oh, yeah.
constantly because I'm not the same person at 20. I'm 53 years
Right.
old. I want to work where I work. You know,
Right.
I don't want to go out of the house at times.
Right.
You know, but I still have an obligation at home to take care of God's daughter.
That's right.
And then God is telling me, okay, my daughter is asking you something. Are you listening? She said, can you have a conversation with her when you come home? It won't take long. You see what I'm saying? And that's still a growing. That's still
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
So,
It does.
So
It
can
does.
you guys share with us some of the things
Wow.
that you guys have learned over the years for conflict resolution that you guys have implemented?
Go ahead.
When we were younger and newly married, I just remember having disagreements, and Henri would always leave the house. He would always leave the house. And I'm like, I don't want you leaving the house. We need to talk this out, you know? And
Is that a man thing? I just got to leave the house and get away. What is that, Henri?
You much rather me leave and gather myself.
That's what Reggie said.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. You much rather me leave and gather myself and try this thing again. Because I mean, the way we keep hammering and trying to hash it out right then and there, it's not going to work. Men are introspective, and I think we process because the learning curve is so. You know, the cost associated is so great. I just can't say the first thing on my mind.
And like women, me, and I think I speak for a majority of women, we do say the first things that come to our minds. We have in the past, and as we've gotten older, we mature, and we need to, you know, be slow to speak, you know. But anyway, he would always leave the house, and I would be left in my stewing, you know. I would be mad or whatever, and then when he comes back, he would be calm, but I'd still be angry.
Right.
So eventually, grace of God, we would get to talking to whatever it was that happened or whatever. But 23 years later, he still leaves the house, but it's different. First of all, the disagreements are, you know, much fewer, but he would still leave the house, but not until we get to some type of even ground.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to have talked the whole thing out, but he's not going to leave mad, you know, because we've learned over the years how short life is, and he could drive out the driveway and get hit by a car, anything,
Amen.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rhonda.
no, that was it. I mean, you know, so I don't know if I really answered your question.
you answered as honestly as it came to you. So one of the things that I hear that you guys said for conflict resolution, you allow space. You allow
Yes.
each other to have space so that you can calm down, gather your thoughts. And then Rhonda, you said one of the things that you do is you've learned not to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
I've learned.
You've learned, right? And so those
Yes.
are good conflict resolution tools.
Took 20 some years. I'm still learning.
So one of the things I appreciate about our conflict resolution is the fact that, I mean, we're not gonna walk by each other and not speak.
Yeah.
You know, that's monkey business. You know, I mean,
We
as we were reared in such, you know, that it doesn't cost anything to speak. You know what I mean? And it's not good morning, love. It's morning.
Right.
Give you something. I
You
gave
know,
you something.
You know, it's that, you know, and quick little peck or something,
Mhm.
you know, before you leave, because, you know, life is short. That's one of the things I really appreciate about our relationship. That it's not just gonna stew and
Fester.
fester.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
good.
because
Yeah.
if we can know each other with friends, if you have two friends, that friend can go to the other person and say, hey, you hurt me. You know, it's like, oh, really? I didn't realize that. But as we get married, we just aren't that, we don't say that.
Yeah. We just, some people, you know, we just
You
withhold
assume that
ourselves.
assume that I know your heart, and I assume. So if we can get to that point where we can just say, hey, that really hurt me, you know, and we have. And it's, oh, I didn't realize that. Because I wouldn't intentionally do anything to hurt you,
Right.
you know.
And that's good growth. That is really good growth.
Yeah.
To come
And
to
it
this
is.
place. Because
Yeah, good
it's
growth.
challenging, because all of what you guys have said is taking in consideration the other person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in a marriage, I think that is great. Let me read this quote. It says,
Mhm.
a great marriage is not when the perfect couple comes together. It is when an imperfect couple learns to enjoy their differences.
Mm.
Wow.
And that's by David Muir. When
That's
the
good.
imperfect couple learn to come together and enjoy their differences.
I had to speak somewhere, and I was nervous. Ooh, Lord, I was nervous. And Rhonda told me something similar. What'd you say? God, I don't want to confuse it. God equips the call. He doesn't call the equip, but he equips the call.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I mean, and that really soothed my spirits. And I think that's the same thing with our relationship. Two different sides of the track, you know, common goal, and just continuously equipping us.
That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
You know, the statistics say that in marriages, unfortunately, 40 to 45% of marriages end in divorce today. And when you look at why that is, some of the top scales are, of course, blanketed is communication, right?
Yeah.
And communication being the tree. And off of the tree roots branches. And so
Uh-huh.
financial issues, parenting issues, intimacy issues, all because we fail to know how to communicate with each other.
Right.
In your marriage, how did you guys target, and let's talk about one of those financial challenges, because I'm sure you guys are two different people, so you probably handle finances differently.
Oh, yes.
I hated tax refund season because that's automatic argument.
Say that again?
I hated tax refund.
Uh-huh.
That's an automatic argument. Because now here comes a little bit more money in the house. Two different people, two different mindsets with what to do with it.
Yeah.
And there began communication, because this thing's coming every year.
Yeah.
At time, you know.
At that time.
Yeah.
For the
At
past
that
3
time.
years, we ain't had no refund with that.
We know what you mean.
It's all good.
We ain't getting no stimulus.
We still hadn't gotten our stimulus.
Still ain't got our money, man.
Donna, where our money at?
I want to stimulate.
So So did you guys, let me ask questions that, people may want to know. Did you guys always have joint financial accounts? Did you have separate accounts? Which one?
We've always had separate checking
Okay.
accounts.
She was messy.
I was,
She was messy.
my gosh. Now that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we got to do that too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on all your podcasts.
Go ahead.
I was
Wow.
so messy. And Lord, I was messy, child. I'm just saying, I would bounce checks. I would. This is the first time I've ever said that publicly. Lord Jesus.
Okay.
Okay.
So you feeling all right though. You can do this.
Yeah.
No, but I would. When we first got married, I bounced checks. And my account be like so negative, and then I go to Henri, and Henri's like, well, where do you think I'm gonna get the money from? This money is to pay the rent and pay this and that. Oh my God, I've called my dad so many times, to bail me out again. And honestly, it was how I was raised, right? Because my dad always gave us whatever it was we wanted. So I'm new to being married. So I'm like, well, let me just swipe this card or whatever. Ain't got no money on the card, but I'm thinking I want it. Isn't that young? That was so immature.
Grown folk do that right now. What you talking about?
But
it's why the credit card debts are so high.
Right. It happened for so many years in our first bit of marriage.
And for me, losing my parents early, I say, it's
he was more cognizant of
I got to get it.
The power of money.
Both of my parents are gone. I mean, 17, my dad, 19, my mom.
Wow.
And 21, Destiny, our firstborn. So I mean, I'm choking a dollar.
Right.
And I'm not really, choking it, but just knowing the power and the importance of
saving it.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about saving anything.
And that's interesting. We were totally different with finances too. I'm still right now, look, I can hold on to $1 for 14,000 weeks, honey. And I ain't, you hear me? Reggie was like a leaking faucet. And so one of the things that I had to learn in our marriage was, and I think he may have said it, I'm not sure, but we always have had separate accounts, and we have joint account and we have separate accounts. And when we first started, we listened to the advice of, I think the pastor who married us about we should put our monies together and da-da-da-da-da. Well, that don't work, because if you got one person who doesn't reconcile and they're swiping, that's not going to work. So we realized that for us, it was good for us to have two separate, and then we would have a household family account.
Yeah, that's what we have now.
Yeah.
And I used to be challenged because Reggie, anybody who knows my husband, there's a few things in life that he loves, and he back then could not live without. And music is one of those. Do you remember that? He loves CDs. He was a music buff.
Reggie and I are brother and sister. Oh my God, I still got my CDs.
Yeah, that's me too.
He does.
Say this quick story.
And he loved music. And I could care less if it don't come on the radio. I can drive in my car and never turn the radio on. So music does not excite me. And so when we first got married and we were young, and again, some of this came from my past. My dad and my mom were really financially fiscal. So I learned financial conservation when I was young, and I was taught that. But when from my past dealing with other people, I've been around folks who were not so financial fiscal. So it kind of made me a little shell shocked in that. And I remember Reggie would go and he would work and he get paid, and on Friday he go spend. It wasn't no big deal for him. He buy 5 or 6 CDs, I'm counting, that's like 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, And he said to me one time, and I don't know if you remember this, he was like, honey, I'm gonna buy what I wanna buy.
All right.
As long as I take care of you and the bills, allow me to enjoy the things I enjoy. And that took me like, okay, well, I bet not had no lights turned off around.
Right.
We can listen to the music.
Right.
In the dark.
$100 worth of music. We won't have no power to listen to it.
Turn some Luther on.
But it actually taught me how to back off on my control with finances, to allow him to experience his personal ups and downs with finances. Like Rhonda had to experience her. Henri said, well, where do you think I'm gonna get it from? You know,
Right.
Everybody got to experience it, because once you experience it, it helps you to grow. And for me, I had to experience that being so tight on money
Right.
wasn't any better than being so loose on money. You gotta find a balance. And that's what I'm telling you. I don't know that finance was ever a huge thing for us, but it was something that we did experience and had to figure out how to make it work for our family.
Yeah.
Learning how to be stewardships of what we have was challenging, because I knew for a fact on Friday, I'm getting a haircut. Buy me my CDO2.
Okay.
And then whatever was left, you know, if I come Monday morning with no money, I'm good.
Right.
Yeah, it's music.
So I got my CD and I got me a haircut.
Yeah.
Bought me a new hat. You know, man, so there's certain things that I would do, and you know, with my money that was mandatory for me to feel good for working all week and releasing my money.
That's right.
I don't care what anybody says, you're gonna release your money.
You're gonna release it
when it's time.
You reward yourself.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I still feel this way. And life is short. If you don't reward yourself on the minute things, and it won't like I'm going to buy $200 pair of sneakers every week.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm gonna get me some music, and I'm gonna ride, put that CD in. We're gonna take a little hour drive so I can hear it, and then I'm gonna come on home. You know.
That's
but
it.
we both learn how not to control one another with the finances, because we both knew also that finance would hinder and destroy a relationship.
Oh,
That's right.
It really will. It really will.
Learn one another's gifts to maximize, to perform, to help us get that finance. You know.
Yeah.
Certainly learning.
And it's still.
We learning. We learn as well. Yeah. Cologne is my deal. I'm telling you. Yeah.
And you know, cologne ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you,
52 bottles.
Okay. We bought one bottle for like $160, wasn't it, one time, a cologne.
Ooh.
And then it didn't even smell. You couldn't. He would be like, "Do you smell me? Do you smell me?" You smell. I'm like, I smell. I don't smell me. Like that.
It just helps me. Helps
we get older, we mature. So, like, I used to love sneakers. I was a sneakerhead.
Yeah.
Got married. You know, I used to shop every week. But when the kids started coming, I started shopping for them.
Yeah.
It was less for me.
Yeah.
And then I grew out of shopping for them because they grew to a point where they didn't appreciate it like they was when they were smaller.
Right.
All of them took care of their stuff.
Yeah.
So you got even more. If you start not taking care of your stuff, you got less.
That's right.
Speaking of kids, how did you guys manage with your parenting style? I know that Henri, you got nothing but girls, just like I got mostly boys. How did y'all manage with deciding how that was going to work in the family with discipline and raising? Was that something that you guys established early on in marriage, or is it something y'all worked up to as you journeyed on that?
We just did it.
Yeah, we just did it. It wasn't an establishment.
Yeah.
I mean, with with being 20 and 21, with Destiny, you know.
Well, first of all, when we first had Destiny, I was 20 years old, and Henri, and I was still in college. So, you know, I'd go home. I stayed home and I commuted back and forth the last couple years, whatever. And anyway, so my parents helped out a great deal because I was. So, I say that the parenting style was mainly how I was raised. If that because my parents were, even though I was an adult and this was my child, they were still the parent.
Much a part of it. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Much a part of and so anyway, child rearing. So I don't know if that's nothing that we even discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that when we got married, we just did it.
And I'm more of a gallivanter. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, let's bounce around. You know, let's pull up at this festival. Let's walk down this street and things that nature. So when we did get married and Rhonda and Destiny moved up here, I mean, wow, you know,
Yeah.
we were kind of everywhere, you know, enjoying that. And then when Ashley came along, it's a little more, it was more structured, but we still did that. So as far as parenting style,
Disciplining and all, it was.
I maybe I'm the Bernie Mac. I got a lot of heart,
Oh yeah, he.
but
talks
I mean,
to them a lot.
it's I need you to understand, and having my parents out of my life for so many years, you know, the importance of understanding
Yeah.
is big to me because I know I'm not going to always be there, and I need to know how you process. What are you thinking? You know. So yeah, but still stern. Yeah, no joke.
Do you think it would have been different for you if you would have had boys, Henri, for your parenting style?
I thank the Lord that I don't, because my temper and my, you don't have time not to get it, son. The whole world is after you. You know what I mean? And just because you are a male, you are expected to know. People look at you and automatically, because you're a male, expect the kid that grows up in a broken home, they call him man. You the man of the house. I'm 12 years old. What about being a man of the house?
Right.
You know, and that's the expectation that's on our boys. And because of, you know, like I said, you know, I'm able to be firm, but still see the softer side in having girls.
Reggie, do you think that, I think that we did kind of talk about parenting styles when we were deciding to have kids. I thought that was important because knowing that we came from two different backgrounds, I think we talked about that. And one of the things that, if I can share, I won't share your story, but I'll share his story and how it was impacted on me. One of the things that I was so confident about with marrying him was that he was adamant about being a good father, right? He was like, my dad was not there. One thing I'm gonna promise you, Charlene, I don't believe in divorce, but if it doesn't work out with us, you can always know I will be there for my children. And I will say, you know, that is a cornerstone that we could have built our relationship on, was him being dedicated to being a father to his children. And and that meant a lot to me growing up and considering raising children. Considering raising children, that means a lot to know that our common goal is to make sure the kids are okay. Because so often when families don't make it, the devastation the child goes through, dealing with all the pain that the parents are going through is hard. So I just thank you for, you know, committing to being that 21 years ago that you are still to this day with our children.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. That's man.
Yeah.
I think one of my finest moments in parenting was being there to witness the birth of my kids and cutting the umbilical cord.
Yeah.
It's a profound experience in my life, even to this day, to witness how unique God created us and how special He created His daughter to be able to care life like that.
Yeah.
And it sticks with me today. And so I never take parenting lightly. I thank me and my wife, because I believe in dominion, that I have a certain supreme authority, but because we are equal, and she's not the vessel, she's the equal vessel. They get the softness from my wife and get the male perspective from me, even with my daughters, my adopted niece, which I consider my daughter, and my daughter, you know. So it was a very effective way of marrying, because I was taught well before I met my wife through Christ's vision that, you know, it's okay to prepare your son for greatness because King David was king at 16.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and the responsibility come with that. Now, there's going to be some failures. There's going to be some shortcomings that come in that, but he's structurally sound, and he has
Right.
a manual to follow. And you just
Yeah.
got to open the book.
Right.
And I think my wife brings so much clarity to the uniqueness of what a wife is and virtue. It blessed me and it made it easy for me to father, because we
Yeah.
made up in our mind through Jermaine that we're not gonna allow a child to bring forth division with us.
The pit and
Praise
pit
the Lord.
against each other.
You see what I'm saying?
Praise
Mama,
the
can I
Lord.
get a
Yeah.
dollar? Go ask
Yeah.
daddy, you know.
Yeah.
Daddy, mama
Yeah.
said you could give me $1. You know, we used to have that
Yeah.
kind of stuff go on.
Oh,
You know,
no. Yeah.
That's awesome, because
Yeah.
you know, come August, we're both going to be empty nesters.
Yes.
And now it's relearning this woman, you know, and not having any children as buffers or anything of that nature. And I mean, people that live for the children, doggone, what happens when they leave?
Yeah.
You know?
Man,
That's a
You-
reality that marriages face, though.
and you're
Right.
right, because I think when the kids were early in their teens, maybe around 13-ish,
Mhm.
we looked at each other and said, man, I don't want our kids to get 18 and leave, and then I don't want to be with you anymore because I don't know you.
We said the
Right,
same
absolutely,
thing.
absolutely.
So we became real intentional with dating, right? And so we used to do that every Friday or Saturday. Hence why I'm a little still spoiled when I don't get my Saturdays with him. But you know, that we would date each other. We would have the morning time when the kids were younger. The morning would be for the family, and then the evening would be our time.
I like that. I like that.
And I think that's so important in couples. Before I ask this next question, let me read this to you. The difference between an extraordinary marriage and the difference between an extraordinary marriage and extraordinary marriages is in just not giving a little bit extra every day as often as possible, but it's giving a little extra as long as you live. So as long as you guys are together, you're always giving a little extra every day.
Yeah.
And that keeps building the flame to the
Little
fire.
extra every day.
Every day.
All
Rhonda, let me ask you this question. What has marriage taught you about yourself? Not what, make sure, just what has it taught you about you?
About me.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not as patient as I thought I once was. Not patient with myself and my own growth. There was a time where, you know, I just, you know, wanted to get it done. Let's go and move to the next thing. You remember, let's go on and get over this argument so we can move to whatever. Let's be happy again, or whatever it is. I have to slow down in my own spirit and analyze things that maybe I don't want to. Maybe embrace things about myself that I don't want to, but I need to. And so it's taught me patience. It's also taught me that this man right here is he's gonna love me. I hope he's in love with me, but he's gonna love me because he's my covering, right? So he covers me when I'm down. It's taught me and covers me when I feel lost and like I'm, you know, worthless or whatever. I know God is our ultimate covering, but he placed Omri in my life to cover me. I don't know. I just feel like it's taught me patience. It's taught me about myself, how to restore myself.
That's good. That's good.
Really answering her question.
No,
I'm just,
No, you answered. You
think
said
you-
that what you've learned about you is that, you know, you grew in
Yeah.
patience.
Mhm.
You grew understanding what trust looked like, because that's what Henri ended up representing to you. And then you learned restoration in your marriage.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. Henri, same thing for you. What has marriage taught you about you?
About me.
It's pointing me closer to the Lord.
Mm.
Amen.
Yeah. Because having dominion, his grace and mercy. Yeah. I mean, because wow.
that's
Yeah, that's a real deep question.
it is.
Of course, you know, patience and planning. I'm an adventurer. I'm an adventurer, and I'd much rather wake up on Saturday and just jump in the car. Where we going? Who cares? Let's go. You know, but they're the things that we have to be responsible with doing. It's the planning. That's where we are now. I'm having to learn how to. I'm more spontaneous than a planner, and I'm having to learn how to plan because my wife anticipates.
Yeah, that's I know this is kind of going off of your
Yeah.
question, but going away from your question, but I like for him to plan things for us, you know, rather than just willy-nilly, you know, and we're working on that now.
Yeah.
Well,
We're going to be more planners.
that's good. So, I mean,
Like-
what I heard that you said that you've learned over the years about yourself the importance of coordinating with the other people in your life what you want to do. Because spontaneity is what you like, but in marriage, you've learned that you've had to learn to
Right.
coordinate.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And so, what do you think you have learned over the years about your spouse? And Henri, because she done already gave you the answer, she just said it. What do you think that you've learned about her that you should never forget?
Covering.
And she told you she liked you to plan stuff for
I
her.
like and that, yeah,
and planning.
And you are my covering.
She wants some planning.
yeah.
Okay. And Rhonda,
Because
what?
it's,
Oh, sorry.
go on.
Go ahead.
I can tell you later. Go
I was
on.
gonna say, what have you learned over the years about your husband that you should never forget?
I should never forget that he's working on his planning. I'm joking. I'm joking. That didn't even make sense. No,
No, that's
Get it-
fine.
Get in the car and ride.
no.
Honesty is good. Honesty is good. First answer is always the best.
I know, but he's always been a spontaneous person, and I know that, and I've learned to embrace it, and especially now, you know, becoming empty nesters, I'm looking forward to having more spontaneous adventures
Yeah.
And
with him.
I think I would say for me that I've learned about myself is that I am a control maniac. I like everything to be, I want to make sure everything is perfect, and I am a control person. So I've learned over our marriage with my family, they have helped me. Mom, stop trying to control everything. You just can't.
Right.
I am learning. I haven't learned. I am in the process of learning how to
Mhm.
let go. And Rhonda, I could identify with you you said some years ago. For me, just recently, I'm going through that change of life, dealing with kids going out, emotions, hormones, life changing. And I was like crazy. And one of the things I realized was I don't have control anymore.
Right.
When they were little, I could control their thoughts. I could control what they did. I can control if they ate, if they didn't eat. Now that they're all older, they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
My husband's doing his own thing. Everybody's kind of branching off, and I had to come to grips with that. So I'm working on that, and so I'm very proud of myself. I will just say,
Good.
I'm gonna
That's
ask you
good.
the same thing. But the thing I've learned most about Reggie is very passionate. He's passionate, and I'm not talking about romantic like passion. I'm talking about
Right.
passionate for what he believes in. Like if something he truly believes in,
Yeah.
I mean, he's dogmatic about it. He's a go-getter for that. He's tenacious. You know, he's like that. He's a dog chasing a bone. He gonna get it.
Right.
I have learned that about him. And I've learned that he loves deeply. Like people, relationship for him, especially not that mine doesn't, but definitely his exterior relationships mean a lot. Like his relationship with you guys, his relationship with friends, that means a lot. So those are things that I've learned about my husband, and I just will never ever forget them. Honey, what have you learned about yourself, and then what have you learned about me over the years?
I have always come to grips about myself that I'm very selfish. And I say that in a sense where I love you so hard, my expectations sometimes can be overwhelming. I'm selfish to the point where I want you to do this when I want you to do it. I'm selfish to the point where sometimes I want to just do what I want to do. But the great thing about knowing that I've always been that way, that I learned how to be selfless by giving more of myself and not giving more for me. And I think it's still wrapped around humility. And I've learned to, and I'm still learning this thing, is appreciating people's perspective, even when I don't agree.
Right.
And that equates back to my learning patience.
Right.
Patience ain't so much waiting on something to change. Patience is allowing people to grow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
In my perspective, you know.
Yeah.
So I have witnessed my wife's evolution and growth and not been threatened by it, because my wife also is a go-getter.
All right.
That was one of the most attractive things about her, you know.
Yeah.
I hate being with someone. She can't even bring the table to the table.
Good gracious. Good gracious.
You know, I don't like needy people.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? And most time people, and I'm talking about emotional, because it's so draining.
Drain.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I have learned about my wife is that she has the capacity now, better than we first met, to be open to love people outside of her scope. Meaning,
Okay.
me, the family. I remember she used to tell me,
He made me so hard. Y'all have no idea.
well, I'm just saying, my wife has grown to be so transparent and open with people. You know,
Right.
I witnessed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's growth. You know,
it is.
I was very shy, so
She was shy.
Yeah, I was very shy and kind of isolated.
Rhonda as well.
You know, until I get to know you, I ain't letting you in.
Kind of like standoffish. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just.
Yeah.
I was like that.
You know,
Rhonda as
Now I'm
well.
such an extrovert.
My wife has learned that, you know, I trust you enough to believe that you're going to get it, because I can't control it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I witnessed in her prayer life that, Lord, I know you're going to handle it. I'm trying to fix it, but it ain't happening. You know, I have witnessed my wife, you know, become this person that generally wants everyone to make it. You know what I mean? My wife just,
Praise the Lord.
you know,
That's awesome.
she has always had information through Christ in love for people, because she don't want no one to fail.
And that's
I think that's her part of her control. She wants you not to fail, but to grow and become great. You know what I mean? I think we all have that. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so difficult dealing with our kids, because even though these are my expectations, I know you're an individual now.
Right.
You're gonna make some decisions. Now I gotta be man enough and big enough to appreciate their decision, even when I don't agree with them. You know. So that's back to patience.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you. Before we leave, I have just one more good question that I want you guys to answer, and I'll give you guys time to think about it. The question I want to ask that I'd like you to answer is, if you were asked for advice from a young couple that are either young in marriage or considering to get married, just one thing, guys, what one piece of advice would both of you guys give them individually? What one piece of advice would you give them?
One piece
And
of-
while you're thinking, I'm going to read a quote for you. A good marriage is the union of two good forgivers. A good marriage is the union of two forgivers. It is so important that when you're walking in oneness and trying to walk in oneness with two individuals, that you're able to walk in forgiveness. I just did a series not long ago on forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It's truly for you. Forgiveness releases you from the bondage that you're carrying over somebody and they're walking free. You're the one actually in the cage of your mind, of your emotions, of your heart, and they're walking free. And so truly that marriage is a union of people who are forgivers. And that was Ruth Bell Graham. That was Billy Graham's wife who said that.
That's good.
So what piece of advice would you guys give our listeners today? One thing. Who wants to go first?
Henri, you want to go first?
Forgive and forget.
You better tell it.
That's it. That's it. You tell me you forgive me, but you ain't gonna forget, then I'm gonna continue to live this nightmare. Forgive, forget. Let's move on with it.
All right.
Travel.
Good job. Thank you. Rhonda.
Have a relationship with Christ. Because if you have a relationship with Christ, then everything else really will fall into place. Because it's a hierarchy thing.
Absolutely.
That's
agree with
that.
That's right.
He's first, your husband, your wife next, and everything else really will fall into place. Not saying you're going to live a life of happiness, every day be sunshine. No, it won't. No. But you'll be able to carry the load.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not a one question. I mean, good gracious.
Yeah. Well, we already did an hour and some change. Y'all don't get me.
We're just giving you more information. So edit.
Well, don't forget, we're going to do the conclusion of the marriage series. That you guys will come back and we'll have some more time to talk about things. Did you want to give advice, or you going to be on another one so you can get some advice in the future?
Just quick advice.
Okay, go ahead.
Grace and mercy.
Grace and mercy.
Grace and mercy.
Grace and
Yes.
mercy.
So if I can sum all of this up, we said it's important to forgive and forget. Forgetting is not that it erases out of your mind, but you're not using it as ammunition every time someone does something to bring it back up. So you're not using that pain as ammunition to hurt. That it's important to have a relationship with Christ because truly he's the center, he's the rock, he's the glue, he's that which holds the commitment and the covenant together between marriage.
Right.
And then grace and mercy that God said are new every morning. You need to give those to your spouses every day, a fresh cup, empty and ready to overflow with grace and mercy to your significant other, and that will help sustain our marriages. Now for you too, my lovely couples, thank y'all so much for being my guests. I want you guys to turn and face each other for me before we leave. Don't look at each other. Look at each other. So, I want you to take this moment to look your spouse in the eye and say, thank you for our journey. Don't say it.
Thank you for our journey.
Thank you for our journey.
And we can make it through these ups and downs together.
We can make it.
We got to. We going to.
That's okay.
Can. Make
We
it
will.
through. We will.
Make it through this journey together.
That's right.
Oh, now give each other some hugs and some kisses. I just want to thank everybody who tuned in for watching this podcast or listening to this podcast. Truly, marriage is honorable in the sight of God, and it is a effort that we take place every morning that we wake up to make it work and to be considerate with others, with the people in our lives, And so I honor you guys for serving the marriage community for
Yes.
23 years
Absolutely.
and
Thank
just
you.
pouring into, I've come to your home for different events. You guys did the love language. I just thank you guys for the commitment that you guys have
Thank you.
made to the Lord to honor your covenant that you've made, even through the ups and the downs and the journey.
Yeah.
We love you so much.
Love you
I
too.
hope to see you guys soon so we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
touch each other and get a hug.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you all so much. This
Thank you all.
platform is
It
amazing,
is.
and I'm
It
so
is.
proud of you,
It is.
Charlene and Reggie.
Thank
But
you.
and you stepped out there and you're doing it, and I really, really am proud of you.
That's it. The life cheerleader. I like that. Go on.
This is beautiful.
This is beautiful. We got
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
guys. I love
All
you
right.
so